Hello, guys. Welcome back to the podcast, How to Play the Game of College, y'all. I'm super excited about season three. We in part two of season three. And as y'all know from part one, we had some really great guests. And I wanted to extend this season with the theme of keeping it real about college. So, y'all, we are in part two. We have had some great guests from week to week. And today is no different, y'all. We got my brother, my friend, Dr. Bryan Malone. What's going on, my guy?
Oh man, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for having me. I'm good.
No,
Yes.
thank you for being on here, man. Thank you for taking the time out. I know you have a very busy schedule. And so with that being said, man, we're gonna jump into it. How does it sound to you?
That sounds good, man. Let's do it.
Let's get it. Let's get it. Dr. Bryan Malone, man. I know you personally, but for those in social media land and YouTube land and the universe who might have never heard of you, can you give us a high level of who you are and what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, absolutely. By career status, I am in the HR space. I do learning and development for FedEx. I'm also a leadership coach. I have a consultancy, MGE professional coaching, basically targeting people that are just looking to get into leadership roles for the first time. I help them kind of overcome those challenges and whatnot. I also do some adjunct teaching. So I'm
Yeah.
also a professor for the University of Memphis. You see, I brought my
Let's go Tigers.
so
Yes.
tires. But just kind of a jack of all trades, really. Just kind of expanding my horizons when it comes to things that I do on a day to day basis. But basically, like I said, my purpose over the last couple of years has really been about helping individuals be the best version of themselves. So I started out at FedEx, native Memphian, started out at FedEx in operations, in engineering, just a variety of career fields, and made it into HR here in the HR space within the last 5 years. So just really learning about leadership and leadership development. That's really kind of been my niche or my purpose or my calling rather here. So that's kind of the primary space that I delve into. So
Man, appreciate you saying that. And as you mentioned, jack of all trades, you have a lot of different hats that you wear, man. So we want to dive into a few of those hats today. And I guess we
absolutely.
start, we'll start with that sweatshirt, man. Go Tigers. Let's get it. So, of course, the book, How to Play the Game of College, right? In one of the chapters, I talk about college fit, right? And students have so many different choices now from, our University of Memphis to HBCUs to community colleges to technical schools to certificates. It's a lot, man, right?
Right. Yeah.
I guess I want you to take us back down memory lane. How did you select your undergraduate institution, which is a predominantly white institution,
Mhm.
20 something thousand students, right? Memphis, Tennessee. How did you select or how did you end up at the University of Memphis?
Well, you know what, Sean? I'm just gonna be honest, and I'm just gonna be
Yeah.
transparent with you. Coming out of high school, like I went to the Central High School. Let me just say that.
Overthink. But no, yeah.
But I wasn't the top 10, top 30 valedictorian, 30 on the ACT, 36, and all my friends were, making 20s, 20 pluses and above.
Right.
Uh, that wasn't my path. I took the ACT a couple of times and I struggled with
Here.
it admittedly, like, you know what I'm saying? So for me in my mindset, like that kind of brought my choices down. And I'm just
Right.
saying, like I said, just for me personally. And so
Yeah.
I was doing some things. I was active in the band,
Okay.
active in Cap League. And so one of the things, I always wanted to go to college and play in the band, and so
Okay.
really kind of when it came down to my senior year, I got bored with band, right? So
Mhm.
I was like, okay, basically narrowed it down to Tennessee State,
Okay.
University of Memphis. That's pretty much
Okay.
what it boiled down to for me.
Got you.
And, I also there was Alpha Theta was on suspension. So
Okay.
so pretty much these were the things that I was looking at, like
Yeah.
really just kind of this was just me, like just
Yeah.
because it
Yeah.
was looking at. So
Right.
I didn't have like a financial aid or scholarships or
Okay.
things like that to really just kind of, influenced my decision to go
Yeah.
to college. So I stayed home. It was just like, okay, it's free. I'm going to I'm at FedEx,
Yeah. Yeah.
getting for tuition reimbursement. I can stay at home. It was just the cheapest option for me, really. So
Yeah.
now, that really was, landed with the University of Memphis. Now, I will say that, I enjoyed my you enjoy it. I definitely ended up in the right place, for sure. But my journey was a little bit different in that I didn't have that guidance to walk me through that process of, hey, this is what you need to be doing, scholarship wise, and when you're looking at a college, thinking about your career plans and kind of what your interests are, what your passions are. I didn't kind of really have that sort of guidance, and so it was really just kind of, okay, this is what
Yeah.
based on what you could afford. This is what you
Exactly.
what
And I'm so glad, Dr. Malone, that you called that out. Again, I've had really great guests on this season, and that's one of the main questions, and one of the main questions that come from high school students, right? Because again, I love how you saying, are you a first gen student? Your mom, did she go to school?
Actually, no, no. Now, my mom went to then Memphis State. She did
Yeah.
got
Okay. Okay.
other family members to take it. Well,
So a lot of times, you're trying to figure it out by yourself, right? And I love how you said, and you right off top, which I love, and a lot of times students don't do that, is that you kind of was like, hey, what can I, you looked at what can I afford, right? You looked at your current, GPA, ACT, all of those play a big part college selection, right? And not trying to go to the school that might cost you $60,000 a year, right? Due to your ACT, you might not get a scholarship. So being realistic about the college career or the experience, to me, that's like number one, right? And that's why I started the book around college fit, man. So I'm glad you called that out, which is very important. Let's go continue down this path, right? You talked about you landed at the University of Memphis, and it was a great landing, man, because you've done some really great things there and continue to do some really great things at U of M. When you got there, we talked a little bit at the beginning about fraternities and just your involvement. Could you talk about what being involved, maybe fraternity or maybe some of your major organizations, what did that do for you, and really how did it shape you to become the Dr. Malone that we see today?
oh man, I mean, I really literally could boil it down to two halves. Like my whole college experience could be boiled down to two halves: before I
Okay.
turned it in, afterwards.
Okay.
When I first joined before I joined the fraternity, I crossed in spring 2000.
Okay.
Now, it was just pretty much I would go to class and I would go home. So,
Mhm.
interaction on the campus and involvement on the campus was pretty much non-existent. I mean, yeah, I
Okay.
would go to some of the social functions that that the Noops had, but other than that, it was just I would go to class and I would go to work on the weekends, and that was it. Afterwards, my first year in the fraternity, I was voted chapter president. So
Mm.
immediately, I already had to, I was pretty much like thrown in the fire, right? So I
Okay.
had to be,
Okay.
I had to learn how to be student. I had to learn how to be chapter president. I had to learn that balance, and I had to, of course, when you are the chapter president, you're responsible for things that happen, planning the things that goes on with the chapter, and making sure things get done
Right.
not only with the chapter, but also with the university, and making sure that the chapter is in compliance with what the university standards offer. So a lot of that involvement kind of forced my active involvement on the campus, and it really kind
Right.
of brought a connection between me and the campus that I didn't have before.
Mhm.
And when I think about just some of the leadership skills that, that it taught me, just being able to work with others and just collaborating with others, and being more learning how to get things done through other people,
Right.
which,
Mhm.
I look at it now in my career now, that's
Yeah.
so critical, that's so important. And I attribute it to those skill sets that I learned back then, being a chapter president, being a leader in a leadership role earlier on uh, in my
Man, this is great. That is so great. I did not know that. So as long as I've known you, I didn't know. Was it, you said your first semester you were voted into? President Mark. Okay. I never knew. Okay. Okay. So a great way to like being introduced into the leadership space and you had to kind of like probably learn while on the job as well. And so, yeah, man, that's great. I love how you're talking about the skills that you
Mhm.
develop, man. And I think that's so important. And we talk about that in the book for students to not just only go to class, but to go to college and really taking that total college experience in and the skills, the friendship, the networking, just all the things that you get for, being involved on a college campus, man. That's huge. So I definitely appreciate you calling that out. We will continue down a path of college, my God. So the next big question, right? We talked about how you got there, how you chose U of M. We talked about engagement. Another question we get from students is, how do I go about selecting my major, right? These are 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds that are just coming out of high school, and you want me to decide what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I
Mhm.
barely even know who I am.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to maybe students, or maybe talk about how you selected your major?
Well, I'll tell you this, and this is something that if I could go back and tell my 18-year-old self,
Okay.
I tell my children this because I have one in college and
Yeah, yeah,
he's a junior in high school. I
yeah.
always tell them, to find out what it is that you're passionate about. First of all, my experience coming out of high school was I wanted to follow the money, and I talked to a lot of students who may not necessarily know what it is that they want to do, but they just know they want to follow the money.
Mhm,
But so
mhm.
they end up picking a career and picking a major that kind of aligns with that career just solely based on the money, which is fine. But what happens at the end of the day when you finally get into that career field and you working, 80, 90 plus 120 plus hours a week or whatever,
Yeah.
and burnt out, but you're making a lot of money and it's probably
Mhm.
something that that you really, really passionate about.
Yeah, yeah.
What I found in my experience was what I went to college for. I actually, I went into the engineering field, but I got my bachelor's in electronics engineering technology. The
Okay,
engineering
okay.
field that I ended up in was process improvement engineering. Still engineering, but it's a different kind of engineering. So I would say to, just try to find what your passion is. Discover what it is that you gifted at.
Man.
Start with the things that you know you do really well. Think about that. And
Okay.
then try to marry that up with a major that helps develop that skill set and helps develop that craft.
Right. So true. So true. I love how you said that, man. I always tell students you don't have to always have it figured out at the beginning. I'm still learning, man.
Oh yeah.
Still figuring it out, right? So I
Yeah.
would tell students like, I've been in higher ed for 20 years, it changes. I've changed different jobs, different titles, started my own thing, and so
Mhm.
you never want a student to feel embarrassed or ashamed that they don't know. I
Right.
actually welcome that with students, like come in undecided because it gives you like this blank canvas to like paint and you meet people. And a lot of times, if you're first gen, you don't even know a lot of these majors exist out here because you never even heard of them, right? Internships, talking to folks, man, all those things will help you to really shape it. But like you said, going back to like passion, purpose, it's nothing like it, man. Once you find that lane, things should take off for you. It's like, to me, your goal is to figure out how to get into that lane. And then only thing you do, man, is work and honestly, God will take care of the rest, man. That's how, to me, life is. So I'm glad you called that out. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's so I think you said something so critical right there. When you're going through that pathway and you don't know and
Yeah. Yeah.
others don't know, take advantage of that support system that's around you. That's what those individuals are there for. Your
So true.
counselors, your advisors, your campus advisors. Utilize those individuals and just kind of get out there and just don't be afraid to get out there and join an organization, join a student organization, join the SGA, join this. You just kind of learn about some of those other things. You'd be surprised what kind of relationships and networking avenues you can make just by joining those organizations. Campuses, like I know when I was back there, I know they still have this, but a camp
Yeah.
station called EMOC, Empowerment
Yeah.
Cover.
Yeah. Right.
Those types of organizations, SGA, not only do they give you the skill sets that you need when you graduate, but you also make those connections, right?
So
You
true.
connection with university administrators that can help, bring about those job opportunities and help shape where you want to go career wise.
Yes, yeah. Man, you said so much there, and the big piece, like you said, man, just the relationships, something that I still use to this day, man. If you could learn it early and not just be one of those students that, hey, I'll go to algebra, college algebra, then I'm back in my car. I don't want to talk to
Mhm.
anybody. I don't want anybody to talk to me. I want to just work, go to school. You're only gonna get so far, right? It's about the things in between the classes that really shape and help you to shape who you are today, man. So I appreciate you calling it out.
Yeah.
We're gonna continue down that path, man. You ready?
Let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah. So I love how you talk about support systems and ways to help you to get through the things, outside of class and to that degree, right? Mentorship. Mentorship. I know you probably have several. When we think about young folks, a lot of times young people, if they are trying to navigate and learn the hidden agenda. That's why I wrote the book, How to Play the Game of College. And I taught
Mhm.
a chapter in this called Mentors, getting your mentor. I have several, right?
Yeah.
How important has mentorship been in your life and how?
Gosh, mentorship has just been critical.
Okay.
I say this, your thoughts shape your actions, right? Your thoughts shape
Mhm.
your behaviors. They shape where you end up individually going. And so, mentors can kind of help be that figure to kind of help shape those thoughts.
So true.
I come up and I think about people in my life that have kind of influenced me, people like Martin Truett and
Yeah. Wow.
Ted Palmer, and even some people that I've met in my professional career that have helped shape my
Nice.
business career, right? The Donna Coleman's of the world.
Yeah.
It's so critical to have a mentor, but a lot of times, what I get, people don't really know where to start.
Yeah.
Um, because, in a lot of instances, there are, people that come up that, don't have, talk about the single parent homes and things like that, where the father may not necessarily be around for a son or vice versa,
Right. Mm.
for the daughters. But just finding that mentor, finding that person that can kind of help, pour into you, or someone that you can formulate a relationship with. I mean, I think it's just so critical, uh,
Yeah.
especially in this stage of life, 18 to 20, right?
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
you're 18 to
Very
20,
crucial.
when
Yeah.
so yeah, when you're so, impressionable and you're just trying to figure out your way,
Right. Right.
having mentors is just so critical in that space.
So true. So true, man. Thank you for calling it out. And like you said, start small. A lot of times people think it has to be the CEO or FedEx or, the mayor of the city, right? It could just be a neighbor. It could be, hey, I really like my biology professor, but I'm out of biology now, but I felt comfortable with that person. I could ask for help. Continue that mentorship, right? It goes both ways. So I'm glad that you called that out and start small.
Mhm.
Very, very important. I guess the next big part, right? I know you have several degrees, and you recently, has it been 4 years or 3 years that you got your doctorate?
Actually, it's coming up on 3 years.
Okay, got you. How did you decide if we got a student who's made it and we're cheering them on. They made it through their undergraduate, some are, working on their masters, they might be looking at this and they're trying to decide like, do I want to get a terminal degree? Is it worth it? Why should I? What advice would you give to that student?
Well, the first thing I would say is, and I tell anybody this is that, think about like the end state. Like,
Okay.
what are you looking to gain out of that degree? Like when I went back, like it was a span of, I got my master's in '05 and I started my doctorate in 2018. Right. So
Yeah,
you come from about a
yeah,
13-year gap
yeah.
in between finishing grad school and getting my master's and going back and getting a terminal degree. So you're probably thinking like, well, what in the world convinced you to go back and get a terminal degree after 13 years? But I would just say to that, just thinking about, what do you hope to get out of it? Do you want to use it as a point of credibility? Um,
Right,
as in terms of, when you're going to speak and you're going to, into the professional realms, are you trying to use it as a point of credibility? Are you planning to go into research? Do you want to do research with it?
okay,
What kind of start with the end in mind when you're thinking about,
right. So true.
a terminal degree, a doctorate degree, or any degree for that matter. Like, what is you going to do with that specific degree?
Right. So true, man. So true. And that's going to help so many students. I get that question a lot from more of our professional students that maybe have a, working on a master's but just completed one. It's like, well, should I go get a doctorate? And I like how you saying start with the end in mind and then determine, strategies to really get you there. And if a terminal degree is one of them, go for it. Hey, if that's not really in the strategy, you got to weigh your options. Yeah.
And then even to that point, like once you decide what the end game is, then just just start doing some research.
So
Just
true.
kind of looking around and just kind of seeing what institutions will help get you there in terms of
Yeah. Yeah.
that particular degree. For
Right.
me, what I went back to school, like I went back and pursued an online degree from an online institution.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, and, and this kinda, gets into the weeds as far
Yeah.
as, choosing whether or not, do I go to, a brick and mortar institution?
Yeah.
Do I choose it online? A lot of times, for working adults, you gotta try to find, what works for your schedule.
Oh, true.
No, no,
Yeah.
well, I had things going on, I had a family, so,
Yeah. Yeah.
those are the things that you kinda take into consideration when you
Yeah.
decide whether or not you wanna go back and pursue another degree or not. It really just kinda depends on what stage you are in your life at that point
Yeah.
in time,
Yeah.
and, what's gonna be your what do you wanna do with that degree?
So true. So true, man. You're saying some great stuff, Dr. Malone. Look, I'm taking notes over here myself. Uh, so definitely appreciate that, man. And I love how you say that theme of like, even when you get out of undergraduate, you still have to like set yourself up for success. Cause I'm opposite. I know we're friends outside of this, but I couldn't do it online. I got to be in a building, in a classroom. I got to talk, so, I even, folks laughed. It was like, you would drive from Memphis to Nashville every month for like 3 years. I said, yep. But I knew that would set me up for success. Not saying that online wouldn't, but I knew how I work, how I operate. I got to be in a class where I got to hear, I got to move, I got to talk, I got to meet. And I know that's a big part of how I learn. And so in the book, we do talk about learning styles. So I'm glad you called it out. Do you need to be in a class? Everybody can't take an online class. Are you disciplined enough? Then there's some people like you that can be disciplined and sit, take an online class and do just great. So you got to do anything that you can, as you mentioned, to really set yourself up for success. Man, that's great. That's great. I guess, man, look, we're at the end, man. This is over. We need a part two. We need a part two. We're gonna come back on here, man. But real quick, man, you're doing some really great things. I want to just highlight that for a second. I know you have your own business, man. You do leadership development. And man, you got a new book out. Can you tell us a little bit about the book? Show us the book, man. Let's see.
Yes. So this is my first book. This
And
is I don't know if you
congratulations.
see that, but this is thank you. Thank you. This
Yes.
is a book entitled Who Am I? It's a rediscovery of purpose. Basically, I started this book in late 2023. So
Okay.
and it was just, when you get to a point in in a stage in your life,
Yeah. Yeah.
this book was really written for men, right? So men like you and I in the middle of our life
Yeah.
trying to figure things out. Sometimes you get into a point in your life where what you thought you wanted, you kind of start questioning whether or not you got what you really thought you wanted.
So true.
So this book is really just to kind of speak to that, how you go about, reconnecting with, where your purpose is and how you go about
Mm.
moving forward with that, right? So I always say that, in order to be able to learn or discover what your purpose is, like you gotta know, why you were created and, who knows better than that than the creator.
So true. So
So a
true.
lot of what I try to do and what I talk about in this book is, my own personal journey
Yeah.
and just kind of tying that back to, rediscovering, my purpose through looking
Yeah.
to the creator for that and just rediscovering what that looks like and just moving forward.
Man.
So
That's so great. I have not read it, but I'm ready to get a copy. I think you said it was my copy. But yeah, man, I'm ready to get my signed copy. And Brian, if they want to learn more just about your services, your book, and man, all the great things that you got going on, where can they find out more information about you?
absolutely. Well, you can go to my website at www.educator, MGE, Mary George Edward,
Okay.
professionalcoaching.com. That's my website. I'm also on LinkedIn at Dr. Bryan Malone, PhD.
Okay.
I'm also on Facebook, Instagram. You can follow MGE Coaching,
Okay.
Instagram, and you can also follow MGE Professional Coaching on Facebook as well. You can get the book at Amazon.
Okay.
Amazon
Great.
Kindle is ready to download. It is out there. You can listen to it on Audible. It is out there on Audible as well. So for those of you like myself that like to listen to books other than reading, because you want to go, there's an audio version available as well. So yeah,
Man, thank
kind
you so much. And again, we got to get you back on here to talk about that book, man. And I know I love how you said, the book. I'm sure there's many, all types of folks. Of course, it's geared towards students, but yeah, fathers who might be listening and they're in that place, and just even older students who we talked about who might be going to get a master's or working on their doctorate, and just kind of reading your testimony, man, and how you got to where you are. So, man, thank you for sharing it, man. Thank you for being on the podcast. I love to bring on folks who inspire me, and you are one of those people, man. So, man, keep doing what you're doing, all the great things that you're doing. And yes, man, we look forward to seeing you again on here soon.
likewise, Brad. I look forward to it.
Thank you. Thank you. And to the guests, y'all, make sure you blow this video up. Yes, share it. Y'all like, subscribe, comment. Dr. Malone will be watching those comments, and he'll definitely reply back to the comments. And again, we'll have the links on the video as well for his website, LinkedIn. So definitely feel free to reach out. I'm sure he's definitely willing to help, especially with our young men who need that support. So yeah, thank you again, guys. We will see you the same time, same place next week. Thank you for joining us.
Peace.